This is the Jerry Callahan Show.
Well, they did it. They succeeded. They convicted Donald Trump of 34 felonies. That was the plan all along. That plan has been in place for over a year. Now you have a choice. Now you can vote for a convicted felon, or you can vote for a guy who showers with his daughter. You can vote for a convicted felon, or you can vote for a guy who made tens of millions of dollars selling this country out with his crack-addled son as the front man. Now you can vote for a convicted felon, or you can vote for the guy who opened the southern border and allowed 15 million people into this country. The choice is simple. The choice is clear. And I shouldn't be surprised. I'm not surprised. I predicted yesterday that he would get convicted. There was some hope because the jury deliberated for 2 days. They had some questions to ask the Biden donating judge before they came to the conclusion that he was guilty on all of it, on everything. And now he is going to be sentenced. Now he has to report to probation. That's the first thing he has to do. Then he returns to that courtroom on July 11th, where he will be sentenced when Judge Merchan will sentence Donald Trump, the 45th and likely the 47th president, to jail. That could change, but right now I am 100% convinced that Merchan, that part of the plan was always to put him in jail. 4 days before the Republican convention, you could have a convention where they nominate Trump, where they celebrate Trump, where they chant Trump's name and wave signs, Trump signs, and Trump isn't there. Now that will not work out well for Joe Biden. That will backfire epically. And I'm kind of hoping for it at this point. I'm hoping they go through with the plan to put him in jail. He will appeal. He will win the appeal, but the appeals aren't going to come for months and months. So next time he sits in front of Judge Merchan, it's going to be to get sentenced to jail. And then the Secret Service has to set the whole thing up, find a wing at Rikers where no one else is allowed in, just Donald Trump. The orange man in an orange jumpsuit is going to be one of the most amazing photographs. And it, just like the mugshot, it will backfire. Now, I wasn't sure he would be convicted on all counts, but I'm glad he was, because that just does more to support the theory that there was never any chance for any other verdict. Let's just review. To review, you have a Soros-backed DA who teamed up with a man who was the third in command at the Department of Justice in Joe Biden's DOJ. He left the DOJ, Matt Colangelo, to go to New York to work on this case, to put Donald Trump in jail. He was the lead prosecutor. He did the opening statements, and he appeared with Bragg today after the trial. They're not even hiding it anymore. That's why they sent their communications director 3 days ago to New York to hold a press conference outside the courtroom. This is Biden directed, Biden orchestrated, and any news person, even Fox News, Shannon Bream said, "Oh, there's no proof." What? Anyone who says Biden didn't direct this is lying to you, is carrying water for Joe Biden. A Soros-backed DA and a former Biden DOJ official prosecuted the Republican nominee in front of a Manhattan jury, most of whom said they got their news from the New York Times, in front of a Biden donating judge whose daughter raised tens of millions of dollars off this case. And they prosecuted him for a crime that no one can name. No one. I have lots of people trolling me, coming at me saying, they got him. None of them knows what they convicted him of. None of them can articulate it. I've watched lots of cable news over the last few weeks. Nobody knows exactly what the crime is. It doesn't matter. It never mattered. This is frightening for the country. This is a whole new world. We have crossed the Rubicon. This isn't supposed to happen in the United States. a former president convicted of 34 felonies by his opposition in order to win the election. And they're doing it for one reason above all others. I should say two reasons. One, a visceral hatred for Trump. He's not just their opponent, he's evil, he's Hitler, and he must be stopped. Therefore, no rules apply, no norms, no ethics. Secondly, their candidate is a corpse. Their candidate is a cadaver. He can't campaign, he can't speak, he can't run the country for 4 more years, and they know it. So they have to take desperate measures. That includes persecuting, prosecuting their chief rival. What else could they do? Expect Joe Biden to go out there and win it legitimately, win it on the level? That could never happen, and they know it. Joe Biden called a lid Thursday. At 9:53 a.m., he was done for the day, off to Delaware. He was supposed to react to this verdict, but I'm guessing by the time he understood what happened, he was fast asleep. He can't react. He needs to send out his surrogates, send out his wife. He can't do it. He will label Trump a convicted felon over and over again. That's the strategy. Convicted felon. He can't be the law and order president. He's a convicted felon. And anybody who's paying attention knows it's a joke. It's a farce. Everybody knows that there was no crime. That before we get to the Biden statement, I just want to go over the, we'll call it the ifs. Ifs. Let's play this game. Donald Trump would not have been arrested, would not have been indicted, would not have been prosecuted, would not have been convicted if he weren't running for president. If he just retired, he's 77, almost 78. If he said, I'm retiring, going to play golf, go spend time with the grandkids, no prosecution. If he didn't beat Hillary in 2016, they're still upset about that. If it weren't in New York City, if they couldn't impanel a jury of New Yorkers who hate Trump, if they moved the venue, if they didn't have a judge who donated to Joe Biden and hated Donald Trump, these things all had to come together in order to follow through, to complete this mission of putting Trump in jail. He needed it to stay in New York. He needed Alvin Bragg, who was backed by George Soros and who promised to get Trump. Let's review again. The Federal Election Commission looked at this case, said there's no case. Cy Vance, the predecessor for Alvin Bragg, looked at the case, said there's no case. Alvin Bragg himself looked at the case, said there's no case. Alvin Bragg, again, looked at the case. Once Joe Biden got involved, once Matthew Colangelo came to New York and said, and they put all the pieces together and they said, we'll take this falsified record and we'll elevate it to a felony because the statute of limitations had run out. We'll get Stormy Daniels in. We'll get Michael Cohen. We'll get a judge that will sustain all our objections and overrule all their objections. We'll get a judge who won't allow a guy who could testify on federal election crime and make it clear that there was no federal crime. And the judge said, no, Bradley Smith, you're not going to testify. We'll get another witness, Bob Costello, who knows Cohen was lying. And you know what the judge did? He cleared the courtroom and scolded him for rolling his eyes, and he wouldn't let him finish his sentence. So the whole thing, Trump exaggerates. Trump, he has a tendency to use hyperbole. He was 100% right. It was rigged from the beginning, and everyone knows it. Some people are okay with that. The Robert De Niro's and the Joy Reids and the Rob Reiners and Keith Oldmans. They don't care. They hate him so much. They're fine with railroading a nominee for president in order to get their guy elected. They don't care. But if anyone, any honest broker, any honest analyst, anybody who's just looking at this, trying to understand it, says, what? What are they convicted? Why are they putting him in jail? Donald Trump was a celebrity for 50 years before he went into politics. He was a host of The Apprentice. He was a famous businessman in New York City. He was rubbing shoulders with all the celebrities, politicians. Hillary Clinton was at his wedding. He was friends with the Clintons. He donated to Chuck Schumer. He wasn't a criminal until he beat Hillary Clinton. He wasn't a criminal until he was a threat to them, to all they stand for, to the power, to the swamp. Then they said, we got to get him. And then we saw 93 indictments. Now, some of them are falling apart. Doesn't matter. We know they don't have to be legitimate. They just have to rig the game. Get a jury in a district that voted for Biden 87%. Get a judge who hates Trump. Get a DA who's bought and paid for by George Soros. That's all. We don't need a case. We don't need a crime. We need a man. Show me the man. I'll show you the crime. That's what they did in the Soviet Union. That's the way we operate in this country now. Trump, to his credit, walked out of court. Apparently, he showed no emotion. He apparently was very calm when they read 34 guilty verdicts. And then he came out to speak to the media. And I was a little nervous. I said, he might just go off. He might just lose it. He didn't. He spoke for 1 minute, kept it under control, and he stated facts. He was 100% right. Let's watch.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Why should voters vote for Wait, the next guy yells a question. He says, will you drop out? Yeah, sure. They have just unleashed the whirlwinds, and they will pay the price. I know that sounds dramatic, but I really feel it. I just feel it. I said this on Twitter. 5 months ago, I was a Ron DeSantis supporter, and I've explained it. You know, I like Trump, but Ron DeSantis is 30 years younger. He could serve 2 terms. And best of all, if DeSantis were the nominee, we wouldn't have to go through this. Now, it's unfair to Trump. It's evil what they're doing. But what would they have to go on? What would they use if DeSantis or Vivek were the nominee? They wouldn't have the lawfare campaign. Maybe they'd come up with something, but they wouldn't have 93 indictments. They wouldn't have January 6th. They wouldn't have threat to democracy. They would have none of it. The media wouldn't know what to do if DeSantis were the nominee going against that senile old vegetable in the White House. But I've moved on. 5 months later, I would crawl across the Gaza Strip with a yarmulke on to vote for Donald Trump. I feel like I'm one of many. I think a lot of people today, maybe they were lukewarm on Trump. Maybe they just They just recognize that Biden's incompetent and corrupt. But right now, there's nothing. They would run through fire to vote for this man, flaws and all, because of what they'd tried to do. It's like what Dennis Quaid said. What he wasn't a Trump supporter, he is now because of what they've done. They've weaponized the judicial system. They've weaponized all our institutions to stop one man, to retain their power. These people are just evil, just ruthless, just relentless in their pursuit of power. That's it. That's all this is about, to stop him from threatening their power. All right. We got to get to, we got so much to get to here. I'm frozen up.
Yep. Hold on.
Quick tune up here. We'll be right back with you.
All right. This is fun. Jerry will be right back. Well, that's not nice.
Excuse me.
Significantly over. You may have to reframe a few things on his wall, too. Good?
Ready to go?
Yep.
Well, that was interesting. Just as I was about to point out that the website for the Trump campaign donations crashed earlier today. We crashed. We're too much traffic. We're all getting overwhelmed tonight with this news, with this story. But we have to go over this again. July 11th, he's back in court. And I heard a lot of commentators say, he's not going to get jail. He's a first-time offender. He's got no criminal record. He's 77 years old. What makes you think Judge Merchan is not going to put him in jail? Anybody? Let me check the comment line here, the chat line. Anybody have an explanation, a reason that Judge Merchan, who has done everything, I mean, he's literally thrown his reputation out the window to help convict Trump in every way. We've seen it from the bench. It's been amazing. Why would he stop and say, you know what? I don't think I'm going to put him in jail. 34 felonies, Class E felonies, 4 years for each. He could give them. I believe that's 136 years. Now, I don't think he'll go that far. But why would he not put him in jail? That's the question I have. I mean, maybe he won't. Maybe someone steps in from the Biden campaign. That's who he takes his orders from and says, that's a little too much. You've gone a little too far. Let's just give him probation. But if Mershon is acting on his own, he's going to send him to jail 4 days before the convention, which means this story is going to go to a whole new level. And Trump's support, Trump's numbers are just going to keep going up. Hell, he can hold a rally tomorrow, and he probably will this weekend. But he doesn't have to. He just has to let Biden do it for him. His numbers are going to go up. Independents are going to flock to him. Black men, black voters who don't like this, they're going to flock to him. This is the we didn't hear anything from Joe Biden, the man who is behind all this, but we did hear from his campaign. Here it is, a Biden-Harris campaign statement. In New York today, we saw no one is above the law. Gee, that's original. Trump has always mistakenly believed he would never face consequences for breaking the law for his own personal gain. But today's verdict does not change the fact that the American people face a simple reality. There's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. Convicted felon or not, Trump's the Republican nominee. The threat Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater. Jesus Christ, I don't know if I can read this. Threat he poses to our democracy has never been greater. A, what the hell does that mean? And B, you're trying to put him in jail. You just convicted him of 34 felonies, made up crimes, and he's the threat to democracy? He's running an increasingly unhinged campaign of revenge and retribution. Gee, I hope so. Pledging to be a dictator on day one. God, do they have anything new? Anything? Dictator on day one. He was joking. We've gone over this. He was laughing. He said, yeah, I'm going to close the border. And they still put it back up there. I want to finish that statement. They still march this garbage out. Oh, dictator on day one. So we can regain and keep power. A second Trump term means chaos, ripping away America's freedoms and fomenting political violence. And the American people will reject it in November. Okay, chaos? That's on you. Ripping away America's freedoms? You just convicted him. You're going to put him in jail. Fomenting political violence? That all comes from your guys, your people. And what happens on November 5th if Trump wins? I mean, we're not talking one city, one place. We're talking looting, rioting, violence, coast to coast and nationwide. If Trump wins, dear God, I can't even imagine the violence, the chaos, the unrest we're going to see, the crime we're going to see if Trump wins. Trump called a press conference tomorrow morning, this morning, Friday morning at 11 a.m., Trump Tower atrium. He's going to be, I hope they're coaching him up and tell him to stay calm, stay calm. Don't go, full Howard Beale on us just yet. But his next rally is going to be I don't know if it's the biggest, but it's going to have the most energy, the most enthusiasm. And as we've said every day, Biden can't draw 8 people to a Wawa. He couldn't draw 300 people to a high school gym in Philadelphia this week. The contrast was stark to begin with. Now it's going to be off the charts. It's going to be wild. And I think people are offended by this. People are upset by this. They see what's happening. I would like to see retribution and revenge. I'm voting for that. I would like to see a DA in Alabama or Mississippi indict a Democrat today. Indict Joe Biden. For what? Jesus, what? Let me give you a list. Taking millions from China. How about threatening to withhold aid to Ukraine until they helped his son's company out, fired the prosecutor? What about opening the border? What about withholding weapons from Israel? Hell, here's an idea. Make something up. Just make something up. That's what they did. When are we going to fight them on their terms? Fight dirty like they do. That's what I want to see. Enough playing by two sets of rules. This is the best campaign issue a candidate has ever had. You vote for Trump because you see what they've done to our federal government, our institutions, hell, our local governments. You see how they've weaponized everything against their political opponents. They are the threat to democracy. I can't believe Biden can even say that anymore after what happened today. But all right, we got to take a break, but we got to get to some of this sound. We got to get to Fat Alvin Bragg taking a victory lap, spiking the football, and well, you're never going to guess who was standing right next to him. In this case that had nothing to do with Joe Biden. We'll get to that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
Yeah, everyone's asking, can it go to the Supreme Court? No, it can't. It must be appealed at the state level, and that's a couple of different levels. So there's no way he can get to the Supreme Court that I know of, at least not yet. Maybe someday. But again, it'll get reversed on appeal, but they don't care. They've never cared. Mershon doesn't care that he broke all the rules. Bragg doesn't care. That doesn't matter to them. They had one goal, to convict Trump so Biden could call him a convicted felon, slow him down, if not stop him, and have their stooges in the media say, Trump, Mr. Trump, are you going to drop out? That was their goal, and they accomplished it. But this slob, this guy who has reduced more than half the felonies in New York to misdemeanors, this guy who doesn't prosecute anybody for real crime, except, Daniel Penny, who tried to save a bunch of women and children on the subway. There's a felon he can put his hooks into. Anyone else, drop the charges. Punch women on the streets, or little old Asian ladies, throw them in front of the subway, no big deal. But falsifying a business record, paying a porn star, then you're going to go to prison. Then he doesn't mess around. But here's Bragg, and if you could see, if you're watching along, to Bragg's left, it's hard to see because Bragg's just so disgustingly obese.
That shirt collar is putting in some work right now.
Yeah. There's a better video of him carrying the donuts into the office. See that one? He's got a big box of Dunkin' Donuts. As Dan Bongino calls them, Twinkies, because he looks like he's consumed a few Twinkies. Here's Twinkies taking a victory lap, and right there to his left is Matthew Colangelo, number 3 man in the Biden DOJ, who gave up that cushy gig just to come to New York to prosecute Trump. Let's listen.
I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's exactly what we did here. And what I feel is just gratitude to work alongside phenomenal public servants who do that each and every day in matters that you all write about and make the press, and in lots of matters that you don't. I did my job. We did our job. Many voices out there. The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
You know what is remarkable? This case should have been moved. Change of venue was absolutely appropriate. Judge Mershon should have recused himself, which would have been absolutely appropriate. Matthew Colangelo should not have been involved by any, fair legal measure. And they didn't care. It didn't matter that it looked so bad. It didn't matter. They are just so ruthless. You almost respect it in a way. They had an enemy. It was Donald Trump, and they were going to stop at nothing to get the man. And they got him. And now, Joe Biden's done for the weekend. He's in Delaware, hanging out, whatever, sleeping. But his people, his surrogates in the media, at the local, they'll all be saying, you can't vote for a convicted felon. When they do those polls and they say, will you support Trump? Yes. Will you still support him if he's convicted of a felony? That's just in general terms. That's vague. That's like in a vacuum. But if you want to get specific, will you still vote for him if a Soros-backed DA and a Biden DOJ official put him in front of a New York jury full of New York Democrats with a judge who donated to Biden and whose daughter made tens of millions of dollars off the case? Would you still support him then? Yes. I can't imagine any Trump supporter bailing on him over this conviction. That's just not possible. I think it's just the opposite. I think there are people who are like I said, lukewarm or, reluctant, who are all in. They're ready to wear a MAGA hat and go to a rally and show up and vote early and vote often. I don't think they've thought this through. I really don't. And at the same time, Trump's not going to be at his convention because he's in jail. Biden is going to be very limited at his convention, which is going to be partially virtual because they're so afraid to push that feeble old man out on stage and have him make a speech before the world. And they're afraid of all their people who are going to show up and cause chaos. We don't want chaos. So it's a glorious day. I assume Andrew Weissman, climaxed watching this. He's the guy said that he gets aroused. He has a man crush on Judge Mershon. He has a man crush. I love him so much. Well, they're all giddy. They're all thrilled. And again, they're not thinking straight. They're not looking ahead. They're just saying, "Oh, good, we got him. We convicted him. He's going to jail." Joy Reid is giddy, of course, which is odd because she seems to be paying tribute to Trump. If you're watching the video, every day her hair looks more and more like his hair. Do you know that Ironhead? It's like the same color, same style.
Trump is doing better with the black vote recently, so maybe
He has appropriated his haircut, his hairstyle. I think the black vote thing is big. I don't know if, again, it's not necessarily black women, but black men. And when you see these interviews on the street, they're all like, Trump, go Trump. They see a man getting railroaded, and they're more anti-establishment than the average voter. I mean, and lots of Trump support comes from just anti-establishment, anti-swamp, anti-deep state people. And a lot of black guys, they say, they're trying to get him. I'm with them. You're going to see that in the coming days in the polls. This is going to backfire for every demographic, but especially for people who are fed up, disgusted with this corrupt federal government. Let's listen to Joy. She doesn't get too giddy, but she's pretty happy today.
System. And I want to say that he's also been incredibly disparaging of the man that we just saw. He has attacked Alvin Bragg. He has attacked his family. He has caused him to face death threats, to face threats in the city of New York. He has attacked this judge. He attacked the judge's family. He's been on the attack against all of the pillars of our
Hold on. Can you hold this?
Also repeatedly throughout his life breaking the law.
Listen to what you want to attack Trump. You got to do better than that. She's attacking Trump for criticizing the DA who brought these ridiculous charges, a DA who ran for office vowing to get Trump. She's criticizing Trump for attacking the judge who donated to Biden and did everything in his power to convict Trump. That guy whose bias was just oozing from his pores. So Trump was supposed to just be deferential and say, "Oh, Alvin Bragg, hell of a guy. No, that Judge Mershon, he's not biased." No. You're really criticizing him for criticizing them. Is that where we're at now? That Trump can't say anything about the people trying to put him in prison? All right, go ahead.
He has attacked Alvin Bragg. He has attacked his family. He has caused him to face death threats, to face threats in the city of New York. No. He has attacked this judge. He attacked the judge's family. He's been on the attack against all of the pillars of our judicial system, while also repeatedly throughout his life breaking the law. There's so much irony in what happened today. And I will also say that Alvin Bragg, and you said this a little earlier, and I want to echo what you said, Alvin Bragg took a lot of heat for bringing this case. Mm-hmm. He was doubted by many. People picked apart whether the case made sense, whether it was the right time. This was called the least important case. Guess what? It's the only case that will likely go to trial before the election. It was a success, and it was done methodically. It was done carefully, and it turned out that he did have an underlying crime, as Andrew has talked about a lot, to go with these what would have been non-felony counts. So I think that Alvin Bragg deserves his flowers today. And I'll finish by saying this. we should note the timeline of what is happening going forward. On July 11, Donald Trump will be sentenced. And 4 days later, on July 15th, the Republican National Convention will open in Milwaukee. We now face the reality that the man who will be nominated at that convention will have been not just convicted, but sentenced for 34 felony counts in his home state. And I know there's some question about whether or not he will lose his right to vote. But the idea that someone who could have to beg the governor of Florida to restore his voting rights can also be on the ballot in the state of Florida and in every other state in this country doesn't say great things about our founders, but it says great things about the fact that justice is indeed blind. It is blind to the fact that you're president. It is blind to the fact that you're a bully. It is blind to the fact that you're a hateful, angry man who hates the same system he wants to lead. It is blind, and that actually today is good news.
Yeah. Trump's the hateful, angry man. I don't know. She sounds like a hateful, angry man there. But careful what you wish for. Joy. Careful what you already it's blowing up. She should go back to the old look. The Trump look, just not working for her. But I love that. You can't criticize the people who put you in prison. Quick question for you, Joy. I mean, no one on the panel would ever do this, but just could you take a minute and explain the felonies? 34 of them. Can you explain them to me? She couldn't do it. None of them could. They have lawyers on the panel who can't do it. They don't care. Jonathan Turley, he's a Fox News analyst. He's a George Washington professor. He's a writer. He's a smart guy. He's a great legal analyst. I stop everything I'm doing whenever he's breaking something down. He's measured, smart. This was after the verdict, this cut. After the verdict, he was in the courtroom for whatever it was, 5-6 weeks. Every day, he was writing about it and talking about it every day. Again, he's a law professor and an analyst and a lawyer. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what they convicted him of. After the trial was over. Listen to this.
I was saddened to watch it. I disagree with this verdict. I think, as I've said before, that this case was legally unfounded. When they were reading those guilty verdicts, the one thing that we didn't know is really what he was found guilty of. Because if you remember, the judge allowed the jury to find guilt on any one of 3 secondary crimes. We weren't told whether the jury found any one of those crimes, whether they found all 3 of those crimes. I'm not too sure we will know that. That's one of the many issues that I think presents reversible problems in this case. So what I would say is that this is a historic moment. We all have to take a breath. But for those upset by this verdict, remember this remains a country committed to the rule of law. And this is going to go up on appeal. I think it's going to be reversed.
Who cares? I'm sick of talking about the appeal. But he literally says it's over. A historic moment. Former president, future president, convicted of 34 felonies. But we don't know what the charge was. How is that possible? We've reached this point where a man's been convicted and is facing, what did I say, 136 years in prison in Rikers, and we're not sure why. No one is. No one quite knows why. What? This is just some truly bizarre, just surreal stuff we're living through. And in a way, I'm okay with it because, as I always say, I root for chaos. We're going to reach peak chaos this summer with the 2 conventions, with the war in Israel, in Gaza, with the war in Ukraine. If we have time, we'll get to that. The war in Ukraine has just escalated about 10 levels, which I believe was Joe Biden's plan B. If he can't put Trump in jail, he'll start World War III and then say, I'm a wartime president. You need me. He needs something. He was desperate. He can't campaign. He can't speak. He needs, Trump to go to prison. He needs a world war. He needs something to help him through this process. But now it all swings. It feels like there's going to be a real call to, fight back, to indict some people. Hunter Biden goes to trial next week on the gun charge. And I don't know how strong the case is. I don't care. The laptop has been introduced into evidence. The laptop with pictures and videos of just the most tawdry things of underage hookers and crack and cocaine and guns. That's in evidence. And his former girlfriend and former sister-in-law, Beau Biden's widow, who he was banging, and then he moved on to Beau Biden's widow's sister. She's a witness, even though Joe Biden went to her house and tried to tamper with her. She's a witness, and it's just going to, and I think there's cameras in that courtroom. I'm not certain, but I think we're going to be able to watch that one. Sweaty. Actually, Hunter probably won't take the stand, but he will show up, and he'll be sitting there just like Trump. They made Trump sit there for the entire deliberations. He wasn't allowed to leave the room. A former president couldn't leave his chair. They treated him like a child. That was Mershon, just flexing his muscles. And right now, Mershon is having a Chardonnay somewhere on the Upper East Side with his friends and family, and they are drinking, toasting, and celebrating, and just they're so giddy. These people, at the View and on MSNBC, their team won the Super Bowl. That's where they are. And I could just hope and pray that it backfires bigly. And I think it will. And I think it will soon. Because again, when all is said and done, they don't have a candidate. They don't have a guy who can go out there and make these cases. They don't have a guy who can go out there and take advantage of this. He's incapable of it. Now, there's people will be out there, again, the media people, but Joe Biden won't be. Joe Biden can't be. He can't do it. He's incapable. Well, then we have Trump. This is iconic. Trump with the mugshot, and here he is with Al Capone. He has 11 times as many felony charges as Al Capone. As he points out, he's been indicted 93 times. I think Charles Manson was indicted 10. Al Capone was indicted, whatever it was, 4. Donald Trump, who was in no criminal trouble for the first 70 years of his life, 75, is now facing prison time and time in the White House. So imagine the iconic photo of him in an orange jumpsuit behind bars. I mean, we've just pissed away like 249 years of hard work. This country is now no different from the Soviet Union or North Korea or some, third world country. If this happened in a third world country, we would demand that the Secretary of State denounce it, the president denounce it, and not accept the results and say, free that man. We wouldn't accept it. It would happen somewhere else. But now we have such a corrupt media that you're not going to hear anything like that. You're all going to say, oh, yeah, he paid a porn star. That's all I heard today from, social media. He paid off a porn star. Yes, he did. That's not illegal. He probably slept with her too, even though he denies it. He probably slept with her 18 years ago. He paid off a porn star. Yes. And she didn't stick to the agreement. It was a non-disclosure agreement. And she spoke and she lost in court and she owes him money. I'd take the guy who slept with his porn star over the guy who showered with his daughter. That's me. Maybe you disagree. But so how the comments coming on Ironhead now that we've gone live on Locals?
I've been posting them up the whole time. Everyone's kind of
Linda says just wait for the cackling hens on the View. It's true. I usually wait for someone to clip the show, but they're going to be going crazy on the View.
Yeah.
Because they don't care. Like, they don't think they're stupid. They just act an emotion, and they're literally going to be celebrating and doing the wave. The only thing Lovecraft's cat says the only thing Trump is guilty of is horrible taste in porn stars. I think a part of me thinks a part of Trump was disappointed that Karen McDougal didn't take the stand. She's still hot. Stormy, you're right. Trump, and I think the Babylon Bee did a joke about this. when Stormy Daniels testified, Trump wanted to stand up and say, she used to be smoking. She, you should have seen her 18 years ago.
I know.
I mean, he is guilty of bad judgment. I mean, what do you think's going to happen? Of course she's going to blackmail you and demand money, and that's what they do. And he paid him. Maybe he thought it was worth it. Didn't sound like it was worth it. 2 hours with her. He doesn't have the best judgment in people. He hired Michael Cohen. He slept with Stormy Daniels. He surrounds himself sometimes with questionable people, and hopefully he rectifies that. Turtle Boy and Shattuck are on the line.
Yep, everyone's tuning in. They're curious what your thoughts were if you were for or against the verdict.
Is Biden going to take an extra Sunday shower with Ashley to celebrate?
He might.
He might. But Biden, he's probably not awake, but he's probably you can just picture him sitting there confused, going, "He's guilty of what? And he's going to jail. What do I say? Threat to democracy? Let me say. You know what I'll say? I'll say if you elect Trump, he'll put his enemies in jail." No, Joe, that's probably not going to work anymore.
You could legitimately have Joe Biden read on the teleprompter all the things he's done and just tell him it was Trump, and he would read it and get
That's
angry.
true. That'd be a good skit. Actually, I've seen men on the street interviews where they say, "Did you hear the time, Donald Trump made millions from China?" And they'd go, "Oh, that's awful. He should go to jail." And they say, "Actually, he didn't do it. It was Biden." Oh, really?
Never mind.
Joe Biden can never say, I know he will, but he can't say it and be taken seriously, that Trump's a threat to democracy. It's an end of democracy. He's going to put his opponents in jail. When they say he's going to be out for revenge, question, does any Trump supporter think that's a bad thing? I mean, what else would you want from these people, what they've put him through, what they've done to him? Of course he's going to be out for revenge, and we're all for it. We're here for it. We want some lawfare on our side. We want, like I said, some red state governor, DA, attorney general to start arresting people. This can't just work one way. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, all Trump's lawyers are in jail, his accountants in jail, Trump's going to jail." But it just wouldn't be right for some guy, some DA in Alabama to indict a Democrat. We didn't want this war, but we're in it. They started it. We got to finish it quickly before we it's a good point. Says I can't read all these.
No.
The only thing Trump's they already did that one. That's true. You know what? He's going to have to bomb some country. Biden will do that. Biden has no qualms about doing something really extreme. Again, he gave Zelensky permission to start using American weapons on targets inside Russia that formerly had been off limits. In other words, he greenlit a big escalation in the war that everyone wants to end. No one wants this stupid war, but he thinks it's somehow going to help him by saying, "Oh, you need me to stop Russia. We got to stop Putin." He's so desperate that he will do anything at this point to help his poll numbers. He'll sell out Israel. He'll forget the hostages. He'll pander to the black voters like he did, and he'll start a war or escalate a war, whatever it takes. Because I think his poll numbers, the next polls we see, I think, going to be really bad news for crooked Joe Biden. But tomorrow, 11 a.m., Trump will talk. And at some point, Joe Biden's going to have to talk. And you know what he's going to talk about? Bo Biden. This is the 9th anniversary of when Bo Biden stormed the machine gun nest in Fallujah, lost his life, threw himself on a grenade in Nam. So whatever the event is, whatever the question is, it'll be about Bo Biden. Bo Biden wasn't a convicted criminal, convicted felon. That's Donald Trump. Don't forget, that's Trump. All right.
Jumps on a grenade that riddles you with cancer.
Did you get Dad Father's Day gift yet, Ironhead?
I did. I actually used our Omaha Steaks.
Oh, excellent. I was going to say,
code.
I'm not kidding. This was a great Father's Day gift. I got it. It's $89.99. It's a whole big box of steaks and the best burgers. I just had one last night. It's like a tenderloin, like a filet burger. So freaking good. It's got chicken. It's got fries. It's a nice, neat thing. Big box, easy to wrap. Your father will love it. He'll enjoy it for weeks, like I do. Anytime you just say, "What's for dinner?" Let me grab a steak or a burger out of the freezer.
Comes
Omaha
with
steaks.
hot dogs to make Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, the hot dogs. Thanks for mentioning. I had one of those the other day. It was so good. I mean, I don't get all excited about hot dogs. This hot dog was awesome. That was my favorite thing, the hot dog. But is it code word Jerry or code word Callahan? I forget.
Code word Jerry.
Code word Jerry. Order your Omaha steaks for Dad for Father's Day. Use code word Jerry. I promise you, he will love it. You will be done with your Father's Day shopping, and he'll be thrilled. But that will do it for today and for this week, this crazy week, man. And it just feels like it's getting crazier. It feels like it's building up to some total insanity in this country, and I'm okay with that. Nothing wrong with a little chaos, especially if you do a podcast. Exactly. But that'll do it. Thanks to everybody on the chat line. Didn't get to look at all these comments, Ironhead. Jesus. Did you already post these up there?
I've been putting them up as they come in.
Oh, good. Well, we'll do this again soon. We'll open it up to everybody on locals. But thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Ironhead. I'm Jerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Show.